Salutations, a comet smash through a station. The blast caused hazardous gas and mass radiation. The public panic due to lack of information that made a killer situation. Feeling ill of civilization. Still you sit in the basement, takes a scientific nation to fail. Blind communities, they read it in braille. Politicians with the skin and scales, pigtails, sending soldiers and shipped to sail in sunken city, divers and trails. Ground below, search for survivors, there's no people for several miles. Desert towns surround ground zero. Reach down, holding a needle, read the numbers on the needle. Measure the source signal, and it sounds like...
Okay, we are back. Welcome back to the Locker Room Readout on the BGC Sports Network, joined by my co-host, Irie Harris, and the beauteous Saphyr Blue. Okay, ladies, we got a lot to talk about during this segment, but before we do, we got to pay them bills. So, ladies and gentlemen, I got to ask you: are you looking for a relaxing getaway where you can play all day and escape the tedious grind of life? Then plan your getaway today at Lakecrest Casino and Hotel, Ardmore's premier gaming destination, and let the winning begin. Featuring more than 1,000 of the latest games, plus an array of amenities, including an incredible restaurant, exceptional retail experiences, and a resort-style pool. Lakecrest offers you everything you need for an unforgettable escape and a winning experience. Book your stay today and go all in on one of the area's most exciting destinations, Lakecrest Casino and Hotel. Visit lakecrestcasino.com. That's lakecrestcasino.com. Well, we got a lot to talk about. NBA. First of all, the latest head coach hiring, of course, Mike Brown, New York Knicks, and there's a lot of mixed reviews about him. He was let go by the Sacramento Kings, and he's a stickler for defense. He's a good defensive coach. Not shy about getting on young players in terms of trying to pull the best out of them. And Saphyr, I want to start with you first, since you're more familiar with him in Cleveland and everything. What does this do for the New York Knicks in this situation? Does his ascension to the coaching position make the Knicks even better in a slightly weakened Eastern Conference?
I mean, except for that slightly weaker Eastern Conference, I'll say this. My recollection of Mike Brown was he really helped the Cavaliers tune up their defense. And I think that's pretty much been one of his staple sort of benefits when you follow him to the Kings, to the Warriors, defense. And when I think about especially the Knicks Pacers series, I just felt like the Knicks never got over that hump. I mean, they had a lot of other issues going on, but defense, as you and I and Irie talk about, I mean, it wins games. So for me, it's that followed very closely by, I think he has a knack for incorporating the younger players on the team. Whereas when I think about Tibbs, I mean, he kind of laid on his veterans a little bit more consistently. So I think there was a lot left on the bench that on the surface, I think, the Knicks would have benefited from giving those vets a little break. So for me, it's like those two things. And I'm very happy for Mike Brown because, I don't think he was treated well here in Cleveland. There's a lot of dynamics going on, but he's a take the high road kind of coach. And wherever he has gone, he's impacted those teams very positively.
Irie, what are your thoughts? A lot, not only does he come in with a defensive reputation, but he helped to create the little bit of the space and pace that the Golden State Warriors had during their championship run. So how do you think he's going to impact this Knicks offense? Will he get Mikal Bridges involved in all that in that offense? What do you think, Irie?
Yeah, I expect those elements as well, because the one thing that There are really two things that came to mind when looking at this offense. Number one, it was at times for as much talent was out there, it still seemed to be stagnant a bit. At times, it seemed as though Jalen Brunson would just hold on to the ball a little bit longer than he should. And I even felt that way last year when watching him in the playoffs. There were a number of times in which, and despite him being the great, awesome floor general that he is, arguably my favorite point guard in the game just for how fundamentally sounded he is. You know, and I've mentioned how much of a sucker I am for fundamentally sounded guards. Despite that, there's still times where he's holding onto the ball a bit long, and it doesn't help because then it affects everybody else in the office. Office is not as fluid; it becomes stagnant, it becomes stale. Then you got guys like Mikal Bridges wondering, "Hey, where's my shot? It's been 4.5 minutes since I had my last shot attempt." So I think Mike Brown will be able to come help solve that along with the bench scoring because that's another hole as well to me that popped out, especially during the playoffs. With all due respect, I enjoy watching dogs such as Deuce McBride come off the bench, Cameron Payne come out and do their thing, but you do need a little bit more fluidity, and I understand that the Knicks solved that with the pickup for Jordan Clarkson, but I look forward to seeing how Mike Brown utilizes him well, especially when it comes down to the last 5 minutes, in crunch time, because you need somebody like that in there to just be able to get you a bucket when needed. So yes.
Well, here's the thing. Now, the odds makers at this juncture of the summer of the NBA offseason have thought so much of the Knicks that that in terms of the odds and everything to be in the championship, right now Oklahoma City is listed at plus 220, Cleveland is listed at plus 700, and the Knicks are listed at plus 750, and they rated the Pacers as a 14-1 shot, and so from that standpoint, the odds makers are thinking very well of the New York Knicks. And I got to ask you, Saphyr, what does this overall mean to the Eastern Conference? Are the Knicks going to have a cakewalk to the Eastern Conference Finals, or will Cleveland, have something to say about all this? I mean, what does Cleveland have to say about all this, and what do you think of the state of the Eastern Conference right now?
I mean, to answer your question directly, no team in the Eastern Conference is ever going to have a cakewalk. I just believe that.
Yeah.
Even last year, and we talked about this before, as great of a regular season record that the Cavaliers had, it couldn't have been more than at least once every 2 weeks. Donovan looked right into the camera and said, "We haven't done anything yet." Right? And I really think, especially after what we saw with the Cavaliers in the second round of the playoffs, yes, there were injuries. I'm not living there. I never have. For me, this is a team in transition. And maybe we'll talk about this. I'll leave some for Irie. They let go of what I think is one of their best bench players, right? I know we picked up Lonzo Ball, and for everything that Ty Jerome and even DG was not able to give to the Cavaliers, my biggest question with Mr. Ball is his durability, right? So this isn't like, okay, listen, we exceeded our expectations for last year. We know what players we need to bring on board, integrate, what changes we need to make to take that next step. Last season was a failure for the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? And I really just think they need to take this off season to really evaluate the pieces that they've brought in and figure out how to reintegrate the pieces that they kept from last year. And that is really all about one Darius Garland.
Irie, the storylines in the NBA East right now, Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum are no doubt recovering from injuries and all that. Do you see any ray of hope for Cleveland or New York and any of those teams? Is it fair to say that depending on how the season goes, depending on whether the Sixers get people back and all that, does
I feel you, Chris. I feel you, honey. Woo!
I mean, because I'm saying this with any tongue with tongue in cheek, because because we all know whether or not MB is coming back. But um, what I'm saying though, but in the East is it hard to find a favorite in the East? Can you say
Mm.
anybody is a favorite in the East? Because anything can happen. The sun can shine on a dog's rear end at least once and whatnot. So, which happened this year with the Indiana Pacers. So, are we in that situation again, Irie?
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
asking.
yeah. To answer the question, yeah, I think anybody that finishes top five in the East is a favorite. As long as you finish in the top five, you have a pretty good chance of getting far. It has not been likely for quite some time for teams ranked that finish 6 to 8 in seeding to even move on to the second round. It's a different story in the West because that's anybody's game. You just had the Warriors who defeated the Rockets in seven. Should have been in six, but that's for another day. And the Warriors were a seven seed. And the West is really a dogfight. I know a lot of people get tired of people saying that because then it could be a different result come finals time, and it could be a team from the East winning, so it makes the West look bad. But what I'm talking about is the top to bottom talent is much deeper and more of a dogfight come postseason time in the West compared to the East. Not to say they want to have great games, or awesome quality series to watch, but it's a little different for the teams. Whoever finishes top five, they're more than likely and are a favorite. And in relation to piggyback off of what Sapphire was saying about the moves with Lonzo, and I know that we touched a bit into this last week, so I won't try to speak too much on it. But I, the one thing that I think gets lost a little bit is that the trade was it wasn't a Lonzo Ball for Ty Jerome trade. It was a Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro trade. And Isaac Okoro, who was extended a couple seasons back, it was needed to get rid of his contract. With all due respect to the young man, Cleveland took him fifth overall back, I believe in 2020, with the thought that he would be the swingman of the future for them. At the moment, he's a worker with a spotty jumper. So you get rid of that contract and you get Lonzo Ball back in return. As for Ty Jerome, somebody who finished second in the sixth man of the year voting, yeah, his price went up. But furthermore, even with Darius Garland, who's confirmed to be out for a few months due to getting surgery on his toe, and that can also be for another day. The fact is that when it was time for Jerome to show up come playoff time, primarily in the second series versus Indiana, when his offense was lacking, the rest of his game was. It's hard to believe that a guard will be able to replicate or even bounce back from that at the start of the next season, because what are you going to expect? If the man's not giving you anything offensively, as Ty Jerome was, his defense was lacking. Even the little things that he was lacking in, and when you get Lonzo Ball, you get somebody that, while you need to see a little bit more durability, I think Lonzo is more hungry. I think Lonzo is really fighting for a roster spot and really showing, hey, I can still remain in this league. We remember that. I remember vividly how the hype was nearly 10 years ago. Crazy thing, it was even that long ago when he was coming to the league. It went from Magic Johnson saying at his introductory press conference saying, "Hey, I expect to see your jersey number 2 up there in the Lakers rafters," to now he's just hoping to retain a spot in the league. So I see a way in which he's more hungry and will really show his ability, as that two-way player. And lastly, the one thing that in relation to Cleveland that I feel that they're missing is that crash out energy. Now, for kids listening, especially those 18 and under, I do not support nor do I condone crash outs or crash out energy. But in relation to being on the basketball court, you need that kind of energy. Look at Indiana just now. I can name 2, 3 guys, 4 maybe, who had that kind of energy where they just did not give a F and were going at whoever and running through 5 walls if it took that. James Johnson, for sure, you know why they picked him up. Andrew Nimhart had that in him. But do you think Benedict Mathurin gave a F about anything? He didn't even give a about his own coach. Well, you think,
Right.
and you think Cleveland has, and that was the one thing that was so exposed to me with Cleveland, because you need another dog. Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. He is the top dog, but it's not about another superstar. It's about that mindset. And that is what I feel is lacking really within the roster. Not a superstar, not this many players, not this role player. It's that mindset. Hungry
So
dog
you're
chase
saying they
after,
need an
right?
enforcer, right? You're sorry. You saying they need an enforcer? You say they need like a Rick Mahorn, Bill Lambier, something like. Is that what you're saying, Irie?
That would help. That
Okay.
would help. Just that the energy and the mindset, even in the form of a guard.
Okay. Yeah. How would they get it? Because I think Bernie, and I'm gonna bring this back to you, Saphyr. There was talk that Bernie Bickerstaff left. They let him go because he was a bit exacting and a bit harsh on these guys, and I I don't like that. I don't like that in a sense that some of these players do. You need. That's what a coach. Sometimes a coach needs to do that with some guys just to motivate that dog in them. Saphyr, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So first of all, you're spot on. It was the perfect transition. I want to go back first and hit on something that YG said. When I think about Isaac Okoro, and we talk about what his role was supposed to be. Okay. That I recall, and please correct me, in 55 games that he played this past season, his 3-point shooting average was somewhere around 37%. And when you contrast that to the league average, it actually was about a percentage point higher. Now, not disagreeing with anything YG said, because YG knows sports.
You do too, OG. You do too.
No, I appreciate that. But see, where I'm struggling, okay, is this is all trickle down. They ran JB out of town. The players weren't feeling him, whatever. I mean, when I grew up, my parents were like, I'm not here to be your friend, okay? I'm here to be your parent.
Right.
So I think about that from a coaching perspective. This whole thing, and I'm an old person, people, and proud of it. This whole thing is upside down. The coaches that you need to have in place to actually coach are being terminated or let go because the players don't like them. And then a result of that is what we saw the Cleveland Cavaliers do last year. They didn't have a dog. And with all due respect to how the game has played, I don't want to see my 7-footer shooting trifectas from Canada, okay? For those of you that are geographically challenged like I am, Ohio, Northern Ohio, where Cleveland is, shares a maritime border with Canada. That's why I make that reference. I don't want to see that. Yeah. I want to see my bigs like Mobley and Allen. Give me some low post. Give me some block. Ruminate around the elbow. Don't hang out. The spacing. It's a whole other thing. I don't know where Mr. Atkinson is at. I don't know if he tried it the player's way. And then, during the off season, he's going to say, hey, we tried it your way. Can we please try it? Why? Listen, I don't think they should have traded Isaac Okoro because I'm not certain we won in terms of letting Isaac go, Ty go, and bringing on Lonzo. I just need to see him prove that he can play a full season, right? So I don't know what I don't know, but I just had to put that out there. Isaac was a 3-and-D guy. He did what he was supposed to do in the type of offense that the Cavaliers ran. Ty Jerome, he bucked up, but the injuries. And so what we saw in the playoffs was his role changing because he had to fill some needs they had because of the injuries with Toe Man.
Wow. Right. Yeah, that tends to happen. But and yet the gamblers, the odds makers, the people who allegedly know some things and whatnot are basically saying that people should put their money on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't. Okay. So, well, that concludes this segment and everything. First of all, I gotta say that you are listening to the Locker Room Readout on the BGC Sports Network. We'll be right back.